Every time IShowSpeed steps into a sports challenge, the internet acts like it is about to be an instant disaster. And for a long time, that was the whole joke. Speed would show up with all the confidence in the world, talk like he was built for the spotlight, and then line up against athletes who do this for a living. One of the biggest examples came on November 7, 2024, when Speed raced Noah Lyles for a $100,000 prize in a 50-meter showdown, and Lyles got the win.
What the? Oh, Speed's ahead! Speed's actually ahead! Oh! He's got a chance! He might beat him! Oh my god, Speed! It's gonna be close! Oh my god, that was so close! That was a tie!
But that is exactly why Speed's story works, because he keeps pushing until he gets a moment nobody expects. In January 2026, he finally pulled off the kind of upset that made the whole internet stop and rewind it.
Hey, okay, man. All right, man. All right.
In Botswana, Speed raced Olympic 200-meter champion Letsile Tebogo in a short sprint, and multiple reports said Speed crossed the line first after Tebogo had a slow start or slipped off the line. And that is the part people were not ready for. This was not another creator race. This was an Olympic champion, a real pro athlete, the kind of guy who is supposed to leave Speed in the dust. Instead, Speed got the upset, celebrated like he had just won the biggest race of his life, and suddenly the question changed from, can Speed compete, to what happens if he actually keeps doing this? Because that is the real Speed formula. He does not just show up to get embarrassed. He shows up chasing the moment where the whole script flips, and when it does, it goes viral every single time. But the Tebogo race was only one chapter in what has become one of the craziest parts of IShowSpeed's career. Because Speed has spent years putting himself in situations where he has absolutely no business competing with professional athletes, and somehow finding a way to make those athletes work for it. One of the biggest examples came when Speed stepped onto the soccer field. And this is where things get interesting, because soccer is the sport Speed has probably taken the most seriously. He has spent years training, playing with professional players, traveling to different countries, and constantly trying to prove that he is more than just a streamer who happens to love football. And eventually, he started getting opportunities to test himself against actual professionals. Speed has played against professional and former professional footballers in challenges involving shooting, dribbling, penalties, and one-on-one competitions. And while he obviously isn't suddenly better than professional footballers overall, there have been moments where his athleticism, aggression, and unpredictability caught people completely off guard. Then came one of his most ridiculous showdowns. Speed versus a professional goalkeeper. The challenge looked simple. Speed had to score, while the goalkeeper had to stop him. On paper, that should be an easy win for the professional. A goalkeeper has spent years training specifically for situations like this. Speed, meanwhile, is a creator whose biggest weapon is basically chaos. But Speed doesn't care about the odds. He runs up, takes his shot, and suddenly the entire atmosphere changes. Because when Speed gets one chance, he treats it like the World Cup final. That mentality is exactly why these competitions become so entertaining. Even when Speed loses, he makes it feel like a championship fight. And when he actually wins a round, the celebration is 10 times bigger than the competition itself. But soccer wasn't the only sport where Speed started embarrassing people. He eventually started testing himself in basketball too. And this is where you could see just how athletic Speed actually is. Standing next to professional basketball players, Speed doesn't have the size or experience that they do. He's not walking onto the court looking like an NBA superstar. But when the competition starts, his explosiveness becomes obvious. He's fast, he's ridiculously energetic, and most importantly, he has absolutely no fear of looking stupid. That last part matters more than people realize. Most people would hesitate if they were standing in front of a professional athlete with thousands of hours of training. Speed does the exact opposite. He charges at them, talks trash, celebrates every little win, and keeps trying until something works. And every once in a while, something actually does work. That is how Speed has created some of his most viral sports moments. 1 second, he's getting cooked by an athlete. The next second, he's celebrating like he just won an Olympic gold medal. And then there was the time Speed decided to take on one of the most terrifying sports challenges imaginable, going up against elite football talent in physical competitions. This is where his athleticism became impossible to ignore. Because Speed isn't just fast in a straight line, he's explosive. When he sees an opening, he immediately attacks it. And that style can actually create problems for people who are used to playing against athletes who move in predictable ways. Speed doesn't move predictably. He'll sprint, he'll stop, he'll change direction, he'll scream, he'll celebrate. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, he'll still try to win. But perhaps the funniest part is what happens after Speed gets a single advantage. He completely loses his mind. If he beats someone by one step, he acts like he just broke a world record. If he scores once, he starts running around like he won the Champions League. And if the person he beat is a professional athlete, that's when the humiliation factor goes through the roof. Because Speed knows exactly what it means. He knows that nobody expected him to win. And that makes the celebration even crazier. And that is exactly where things get even crazier. Because Speed's biggest wins aren't always the ones where he completely dominates somebody. Sometimes it's the moments where he gets one opportunity against an athlete who should have every advantage and somehow makes it count. One of the clearest examples is when Speed started testing himself against professional footballers in shooting challenges. Now, if you have ever watched professional football, you already know how ridiculous this sounds. These players have spent their entire lives working on their touch, finishing, positioning, and technique. Speed is an entertainer first. But when you put a ball in front of him, his competitive personality completely takes over. He doesn't want to participate. He wants to win. And that attitude has led to some genuinely surprising moments. Speed has gone up against professional players in penalty challenges, shooting competitions, and one-on-one situations where the professional is supposed to have the obvious advantage. But because these challenges are usually about one specific skill, Speed only needs a couple of good attempts to completely flip the narrative.
Stop playing with me! So!
And when he scores, you already know what happens. He runs away screaming. He points at the professional. He celebrates directly in their face. And suddenly, the person who is supposed to be teaching him is getting roasted by IshowSpeed. That's what makes his sports content so entertaining. He doesn't approach these moments like a normal celebrity trying a new sport. He approaches them like his entire reputation is on the line. The craziest part might be that Speed isn't finished. Because if he's already managed to beat an Olympic champion, challenge one of the fastest men alive, compete against professional footballers, and turn random sports challenges into massive viral moments, imagine who he decides to challenge next.